probably is too, because he works in an office. I worked in one of those once, and look at me. I'm super homophobic. I'm going to make that the clip. Just going to, yeah, that's going to be the promo for this episode. Jon Marek, super homophobic.
Catch this episode of The Butch and the Bi for shocking revelations.
Whoa! We're changing the name again.
Yeah.
Did I just get blue balled by Jon? Oh my god, I got blue balled by Jon. Hey everybody, my name's Jon.
I'm Bob. He's Bi.
They're Butch.
And together we are The Butch and the Bi.
And we had a good time watching A Tale of Hope.
A tale of eldritch horror.
A tale of disappointing your loved ones so much. Yeah, I feel like that was a core aspect of that production.
That's fair enough.
What did we watch, Bob?
We watched the StarKid production of the original musical, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals.
Some would say we had a good time watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Hey, Bob, did you know that StarKid, the people, they did Harry Potter musical and Holy Musical Batman?
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I'm sharing that fact with people that don't know that.
Yeah. I knew that well before you knew that, so it's fun when you share facts that did not originate.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, so they started off being known as StarKid Potter, and they dropped the Potter after a while because they expanded into other things. But if you are familiar with a Harry Potter musical sequel, Senior Year, and a number of other spoofy things that they did, This is an interesting turning point in their productions, actually.
Was this their first, completely original production?
No, Me and My Dick is an original production.
Same.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, very silly, fun, weird time. But yeah, this is their first, I think everything else is, heavily inspired by something, if not blatantly in the name.
Yeah, well, and this is also spoofing a lot of the 50s and 60s B horror films and like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Night of the Living Dead and a lot of just classic sci-fi horror. It also, fun fact, is a musical, as many of these things are, and because it's a musical, that means there's songs. And Bob, there are so many goddamn StarKid Production songs that have been used for TikTok trends over the last couple of years. In particular, the one I think of, and it's one of the performers that's in this show, I Don't Really Want to Do the Work Today.
Yes, that's Lauren Lopez singing that. I suppose Firebringer is original. But
amazing.
Yeah.
So we should talk about who's in this.
Yeah.
And it's fun because everybody's just heavy lifting on this show. But there's one man all alone who is carrying this production on his back by playing literally every supporting character.
Well, they're all playing a bunch of different characters.
They are, but he
is a man who gives it his all every time, and it is a beauty to watch.
He's like an onstage voice actor, with how many roles he was playing in this. You look at his IMDb page and there's 700 roles. It's this is that version of that for a live show. So we've got Jamie Lynn Beatty, who is playing a number of characters, who is Charlotte, which is one of the coworkers of the main character.
Charlotte.
Yeah, she's got the transatlantic accent, and she's like cat lady kind of thing. We've got Jeff Blim playing Mr. K. Davidson, Man in a Hurry, Jeff Hatchfield Citizen, and General John McNamara, and Greg. He's very Jim Carrey-like.
Yes, he's got a wonderful vocal range, a wonderful facial range.
Yeah, he does the unhinged jaw wiggle that Jim Carrey does.
Yeah, he was Sweet Tooth in Holy Musical Batman and fully steals the show in that. Even everyone else is so great, and he still steals the show constantly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not like oh man, there's so many bad people in these things that one person can step up. He just steps up. Yeah, it's really good. We also have Corey Doris, who plays Bill. That's the one coworker, the one with the daughter. Yes, great. Yeah, we'll talk about him later because I'm disappointed in him. Maria Rose Faith Casillas, but I guess this was before she got married, I assume, or just added a fun extra name to her name because she needed more words in there. And she played Melissa and Zoe in Greenpeace Girl. She showed up a bunch as kind of one of those supporting character type roles. We have Lauren Lopez, who's playing Emma, the love interest. She's a girl that works at a coffee shop. She also plays a
was
number of
Draco
other roles.
Malfoy in the Harry Potter musicals.
Oh, that's fun.
And yeah, no, and
we've never watched Potter musicals. We've only.
I mean,
seen...
I haven't shared them with you. No,
Yeah.
I've watched all of them.
Well, Bob, when I ask you what you want to watch,
the thing is that you're always like, "Oh, this is so long," and you want to take an actual break at intermission, and I'm just like, I could watch through all of these in a row.
Yeah, you could, but you don't. You accommodate me because you're a loving partner, podcast partner. We don't. You know, who are you? Wait a minute. Who are you? We also have that was Maria Rose Faith. This was her first show with StarKid. Fun fact. You may know these things, but I learned these things just now as I read.
You were also responding for everyone who's listening. I am nodding emphatically at every fact I know, and John is acting like it's an insult to him.
You know what it is? I'm reminding myself that we're on video now, so I'm like, why are you motioning at me in confirmatory ways when in the past you wouldn't have? Also, John Madison, this was his first role with StarKid Productions. Yes. He plays the guy who didn't like musicals, Paul Matthews, and Joey Richter, who plays a number of supporting characters, including Ted.
Spankowski.
Huh?
His last name is Spankowski.
Oh, Ted's last name?
Yep.
Amazing.
Joey Richter.
He's the sleazeball.
He's the sleazeball.
Right? Yeah.
He plays a lot of villains very well, but he was in Harry Potter musicals Ron Weasley. So that was where he got his start.
Yeah. So this was a 2-act musical. It's available on YouTube for free. So if you would not like to be spoiled on this, I guess go check it out there. It has 1,000,000,001 ads layered into the mid-roll. It's insane. I've never watched something with that many ads. Good for them. They deserve the money. It's good. It's fun. And yeah, it takes place in this small town where Paul wakes up one day and suddenly townspeople are basically flash mobbing in the street. And he's like, what the hell is happening?
It is well established that Paul doesn't like musicals.
He's the guy that specifically doesn't like musicals.
His coworker, Bill, tries to get him to come with Bill and his daughter to go see Mamma Mia. And he's like, no.
That's
also,
in competition to Hamilton.
Yes.
Because the daughter's mother took her to see. Or was it the stepmother? Who's
It's
Deb?
mother, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was Deb the girlfriend of the daughter, or was she the
Deb was the girlfriend.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, yeah, no. And it's very, like, he's, like, all offended. He's all like, why don't you want to go with me? He's like...
I would literally rather do anything.
Literally anything else.
I hate musicals.
Yeah.
And I am very comfortable in saying so. That's one of the things about Paul very quickly. He's just like, this man sets boundaries very clearly.
This man is a main character. And this show is very meta and very just, it gets to the point. Like, it does not spend time pretending like it's not a spoof of musicals in general. There are so many fun jabs at, like, theater production, and also just the irony. Like, the opening number is the guy who doesn't like musicals, and then, like, here comes the star of the show, and it, like, he's not in it at all up until that point. I don't see he doesn't sing either up until the last song, right?
Nope, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't sing throughout the main production.
Yeah, it's very similar. It reminded me a lot of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which is amazing. And I hate NBC because they ruin everything by canceling it and expecting Subway to save it or something. And Subway didn't save it this time. I tried. I made a hashtag. I was like, Subway save Zoe. The same way they did Chuck and Community. But I guess women aren't savable. What a shame. Anyways, same thing of someone seeing people singing songs and not participating usually. And yeah, it's just, he's an average Joe, works in an office, has a crush on the barista, his coworkers or his friends kind of thing. Like, paint by numbers setting. Like, that's it. Like, there's not, like, the military characters are very, like, hoo-ha, like, kind of like Chip Hazard and Small Soldiers. There's a nutty professor type who is, like, not nutty professor, I guess, just mad scientist type.
Yeah.
Who's very, very weird, and throws wrenches everywhere. And like he's like very like Doc from Back to the Future, but like on bath salts.
It's Doc from Back to the Future, but with the like vibes of Frankenfurter.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Not even Dr. Frankenstein, specifically Frankenfurter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also like this a lot because it was not an opera. I hate musicals that pretend like they're musicals, but really they're operas.
None of this recitative bullshit for Jon. You speak when you speak and you sing when you sing.
Yes. It should, to me, the music, again, is there to accentuate the emotion. It is to heighten it. And if you're doing it the entire time, if everything's ASAP, nothing's ASAP. Like, if everything's heightened emotion, then nothing is heightened emotion.
Well, that's the point of there being a difference between aria and recitative. Recitative is not a lot of up and down. It's more...
You're speaking fancy theater words.
Well, opera specifically. Recitative is the speaking. It's very plain melodically.
The most theater experience I have is improv.
Yeah.
Paid for those classes.
Paid with blood.
Oof, man.
But
you got
yeah,
paper cut at a 201 show once.
Oh, I have a scar on one knee from falling dramatically to my knees for a bit. And then when I stood up, it found out I had fallen right on the seam of the stage and the little metal bit had cut my knee and I was just bleeding down it. And everyone's like, Bob? I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, my 101 show with Gladys, friend of the show Gladys. Go check out episode 100 if you want to see her again. She's amazing. She's also in a show we're going to see tonight while we're recording this and not in the future. So too bad you missed out on Frankly Scarlet with Katie and Gladys and Krista. The Frankly Scarlet team just stole our show, basically. They just excluded Tyler.
How dare they?
How dare they? Rude.
I
didn't realize the lineup was the same. Anyways, we're excited about that. I'm sure we enjoyed it. If not, we'll lie through our teeth. But yeah, the 101 show, we were doing like jump roping. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I can jump rope on my ass. And I committed to the bit. And let me tell you, those stages are not bouncy. And I bounced a good number of times until someone finally, I think it was either tagged me out or called scene or whatever. And it was like sit, stand, lean. That's why I did. That's why I did it, was so that there could be someone sitting. And I was waiting for someone to, switch with me. And so I was doing it for a while. And yeah, it was fun. Gladys is a gem. I love her. We started improv together, and I'm very happy to see her doing lots of things.
Yeah, Gladys, someone who I feel like would absolutely kill if StarKid was like, we need someone a bit older, and just like, she'd be amazing. But basically,
Bob, should we write a musical just for Gladys?
Honestly,
just have Gladys come over for a musical with us. We don't record it. We don't sell tickets.
Super self-indulgent. Just the three of us. But no, so.
Do you have questions for me? Is that what that face was?
No, I was just trying to think of what else to say about this, other than I love it and I've watched it multiple times, and every time I hear the songs,
there's plenty to say about it, Bob. First things first. Well, spoilers now, I guess.
Yeah.
Paul. No, wait. Which one's the friend? Bill. Bill. Such a disappointing father. So the whole thing behind what's going on, why this is a musical, is that there are aliens that are basically infecting people and converting them into aliens. And those aliens attack through musical theater. And so it's very campy. It's very corny. There's some really great stage effects in this. I love the brain skull cap that they use to show Charlotte's brain all exposed and blue. They use like flashlights to show like vomiting in people's mouth, and like they have like an intestine prop that has like some, not even like, it's not like it's a bunch of glitter, a little bit glitter comes out, and then it has like those paper streamers that are red to give it that look of like, oh, it's bleeding, and it's very campy. I love it so much. But Bill's daughter was supposed to have left town, and she stays for Deb, her girlfriend. And he's not homophobic. He just doesn't like Deb. But she's a teenage girl, and she's like, you're just homophobic. Probably is, too, because he works in an office. I worked in one of those once, and look at me. I'm super homophobic. I'm going to make that the clip. Just going to, yeah, that's going to be the promo for this episode. Jon Marek, super homophobic.
Catch this episode of The Butch and the Bi for shocking revelations.
Whoa. We're changing the name again.
But yeah, so you're disappointed in this father.
Yeah, just disappointed entirely. Because she stays and she ends up getting killed because he's just a terrible dad. No, I'm kidding. He's not a terrible dad. No. But it was just really, I think he had the biggest, like, he had the highest stakes. Everybody else's stakes felt medium well. Like, whereas his was like raw. Like, his daughter was now trapped in this area and they eventually get to where she's at and she's been turned and he can't handle that, and she kills him, and it's very tragic. And it's like, oh, geez. Charlotte is dating the cop in the
Charlotte
town.
is married to the cop.
Charlotte's married to the cop. She's dating
Ted. She's seeing Ted, and the cop is seeing Zoe, who is another worker at
the
Beanie's.
Barista. Yeah, yes. They're a musical cafe.
Yeah,
they're like,
tip
oh,
for a song.
Yep. Or eventually it's like, no, you're just gonna sing. I love how much Emma complains about everything happening. It's the best. Yeah. She definitely stands out to me as like, so the guy who plays Steve the cop, and it's a bunch of other roles. Iconic, but I think genuinely, what did you say her name was? Laura something?
Lauren Lopez?
Lauren Lopez, yeah. Amazing. I think she was by far the best actor in the show.
Insanely talented, and there are some amazing things that she's done in other shows, and I adore her.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. They have a very interesting, she's very much like, she's like a weird amalgamation of like the girl next door and the manic pixie dream girl kind of thing for Paul, who I think is just, it's very interesting. Like, I think because he's in so little of the singing portions, he stands out so much as just self-insert character. Like, this is the character you're supposed to relate to because, oh, look at him. He's responding to all the wacky singing that's happening. And that kind of stood out to me a little bit. The songs in this are amazing. The number that the scientist does when he turns on Emma and Ted and ties them up, and he does his own little musical number and breaks open the door.
Stopping number, a real showstopper, and then a preview of Workin' Boys.
Yeah,
which there's so much. The level of thirst that came for this man after the show dropped, because he has so many good weird, like when he sits down at the piano, he's just like, it's just, and his fucking tour jetés that he's doing in that.
When he sits down like that, I imagine in that moment, if it was a higher production budget or if it was a movie, he would immediately lose the pants and just be in like fishnets. Like, I imagine that exact like twitch of the legs would just suddenly rip. Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, that's great. There are these moments of really genuine, painful sadness. Like in the daughter's song, where she's like, why does it hurt to love you? And it's like really complicated relationship with your parents.
Yeah, so that's one of the manipulation tactics the aliens use, is they have all of the memories and feelings and wants of the hosts.
What do you want, Paul?
Yeah, they use them against the loved ones, basically. And it's kind of, it is rough to watch, because it's like, damn.
Yeah. Talking of bringing up the want song was also very meta. Like, come on, what's your want? It's like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
But that, and then like, so eventually, Paul is going in on a suicide mission, and he's got to the meteor where everything's coming from, the hive mind, and he's so close the spores are infecting him, and he starts to sing. And I love watching someone fight against their own body in a character, and that's so fun. But his part where he's like, I've never been happy, it's just like, damn, yeah. So many people I go through life coloring in the numbers like, oh, I've actually never been happy. I've just been fine.
I've been surviving. But people have been conditioned to be like, that's not surviving, that's just existing. Same thing, champ. Yeah, no, it's got similar, like a grim fate similar to Night of the Living Dead, where Ben makes it through the night. Spoiler alert for 1960s Night of the Living Dead. Ben survives the insanity of all the white people in the house with him, only to then get shot by the Evansville townspeople because they're like, oh, that house clearly has zombies in it. And they just shoot him. And like that was the thing, the character wasn't written to be any specific race or anything, so George Romero kind of stumbled into it being just very allegorical to a lot of problems, and it definitely is like, it's a gut punch. And horror movies do that a lot, where they're like, and this does that because so Evan succeeds, not Evan, Paul succeeds with his plan of blowing up the meteor and killing the zombies, or so he thinks, so we think as the audience. And we find that a injured Emma has survived, and
brought
she
to
is
Clivesdale. Fuck Clivesdale.
Fuck Clydesdale. And she made her way there. The military saved her. They gave her a new identity. They're like, we're just going to say everybody died on the island. We don't want to deal with explaining this. So you're going to go and live peacefully with this identity. Oh, and by the way, the other person that survived too, that you're companions with. And she's like, what? I don't have anybody else. And it's Paul, seemingly alive and fine.
They got a hug, and then
musical number.
I'm sorry you
Yeah.
lost. Oh, that moment of just like chills.
Yeah, because
Like
then
it couldn't end happily.
no.
You know.
Well, and it's also too, it's fun in the meta way of it, like it's the closing number, and as it's the closing number and the audience is starting to like cheer and stuff, like Lauren? Good God, I'm bad with names. Lauren's like, no, please help. Like,
yeah, she's like
why are
trying
you
to get away,
clapping?
and she goes like behind stage. She's like, it's a loop.
Yeah.
And then she's like, please help me, call your phones.
There's
and then they drag her backstage.
There's a great moment earlier on, right after Paul saves them from the doctor, and they were tied up to the chairs, and she's like, oh, should we take these with us?
Yes.
Because they were clearing the stage.
Ted's like, I'll grab the piano. That's amazing. When La Di Da Di Day ends, the first song in universe really that happens, and they're like, and break, and then they peel off. There's so many good little bits like that. Oh, this show is so fun. Yeah. And I said it was a turning point for StarKid.
Okay. What do you
So
what do you
this
mean by
is
that?
set in the small town of Hatchetfield, which is on an island. I forget what the thing. But the next movie that they did is Black Friday, which is also set in Hatchetfield.
Came out in 2019, right? 2018?
I think 2019,
Okay.
yeah. And
This came out in 2016, right?
yes, I believe so. Also set in Hatchetfield, an alternate history, possibly. McNamara shows up again in a slightly different capacity, but it's the same character. And then once
Was McNamara the scientist?
No, although the scientist shows some other ones. McNamara is the general.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
And then during the pandemic, they started doing like Zoom radio show type things called Nightmare Time, which further explores the lore of Hatchetfield, which I've been watching, and honestly is delightful. There's like usually 2 horror stories per setting, and characters. We want to learn more about characters. We're not sure how much of this is like a unified timeline. I haven't got to the end of what they've released so far. People refer to it as a loop.
Okay.
Which seems to be like there are various ways things could go in Hatchetfield, and we explore some possible ones of that. And it's really weird and spooky and interesting, and it's just I want so badly to talk to them. It's like, you did this musical, is amazing, and then you're like, we're gonna stay in this weird little town. It is somewhat Night Valian in the way that they've explored it, but it's also very like the way the stories are set up. It feels like we're exploring alternate universe opportunities, and it's so so good, and I'm delighted by it. And it's such an interesting turn. It's like we started off with all these spoof musicals, and we created our own original thing, and then we got hard into horror. We're just gonna dig our heels into horror, and they do it so well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the interesting thing about digital content that's well supported is people love lore. People love an expanded story. People love that kind of stuff. And I think with the medium that they have, where, they have complete creative control over it, they can work in multiple mediums, and they're one of the first big things I can think of on YouTube that we're doing a lot of digital releases of their stuff. Like, it's more common now that you'll find web series and productions, and you mentioned Zoom things. Like there's like 5 or 6 Zoom horror movies that came out. There's like 6 or 7 episodes of various sitcoms from 2020 that were set in like Zoom calls. like working in that digital space, and so they have such an experience working in that space. To watch them kind of twist it like a kitten with a ball of yarn kind of thing is very fun. So yeah, that's exciting to hear that they're doing more with that. I also love the idea of like a Twilight Zoneville sort of story, kind of like.
Yeah, it very much has that vibe.
Yeah.
And yes, it's fun because various characters return, like Professor Higgins, who is almost always still trying to pitch Workin' Boys at various times. And these are live streams, you get to read the comments. But even watching it as a VOD, I'm like, here comes Workin' Boys.
Yeah.
He's still trying. There's a wild time loop thing that happens with one of the characters, and there's like weird future stuff and backstory stuff. And then some also like just very serious lore deep things that are just like, damn. There's also a bunch of birds that get super high on pot and then take over.
Oh.
Because they ascended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
The birds got so high they became telekinetic.
Amazing.
But yeah. So I'm gonna keep watching that, and if that's ever something you want to look into Nightmare Time, probably Black Friday is not as good as The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, but there's still interesting things in it.
Yeah.
And it sets up a lot of the lore of the Lords in Black, which are these 5 brothers of various eldritch horrors.
Gotcha. Are they getting into like, we like the thing we're doing, now we're doing it too much and the quality is suffering for it kind of thing?
I don't think so.
No,
I
just that one thing. It's just.
I don't think the thing is it's not bad. It's just that The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals was so good and it was a specific niche, and this is like this is a genuine musical, and it's also a little bit more serious.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, it was a good time to watch it. I think that's the thing too. They have like an active Patreon, like you can go support their stuff. So if you're familiar with their older stuff and you've been like, oh man, I really liked Harry Potter musical, they're still doing stuff. And yeah, I love to see that kind of like crowdfunded project, because it really does allow it to be its own thing and not super beholden to 1,000,000,001 different voices in the room. Speaking of 1,000,000,001 different voices in the room, Bob, do you have any closing thoughts on this?
I'm glad I've been able to get you into StarKid more, because there was a period of my life where I watched Holy Musical Batman so much that I pretty much could play it in my head as I was bike riding places, and I just had like the audio playing as a way to entertain myself. And yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying the things that I have shown you.
Yeah. It's nice when you show me things.
Yeah, just
it's like pulling teeth.
Because when I have in the past, it's usually things you're not into, and so I get a kind of barometer
you try it
for
with actual Play D&D podcasts,
yeah, that's
which
not
are
your
an
thing.
investment. Well, they are my thing. It's just they're an investment to do with another person.
Yeah,
it's a strong difference between being able to get it done in 1 or 2 sessions, and that's why I like the what was the school Kids on Brooms,
Misfits and Magic.
Yeah, Misfits and Magic from Adventure Zone or Dimension 20, I guess. It was a specific thing. I think that's the thing with a lot of the other ones, is they're ongoing, they are long, they are seasons, and like each episode is just, it's a lot to invest in. But I'm glad people enjoy it. That being said, people can enjoy more of this show by going to www.thebutchandthebide.com. That's AND, not ampersand, because the internet does not like ampersands, where you can find all the links to things, including previous episodes. Because Bob, we're recording this apparently on National Batman Day.
Wow.
So you can go back and check out one of our previous episodes where we watched The Batman, the 2022 film starring Robert Pattinson, which I want to rewatch at some point soon here, because like I'm pretty sure it's still good, and it's not just the hype of, oh my god, DC actually put out a good movie. I've also been watching Harley Quinn on HBO Max, which fuck HBO Max. David Zaslav can suck a dick. I have no scruples about it. It's atrocious what they're doing. But Harley Quinn did get picked up for a 4th season, so hopefully that doesn't change. Fingers crossed. And keep an eye out on our social medias for links to a particular live show coming this November to a friendly neighborhood comedy theater near you, particularly Arcade Comedy Theater. So information about whatever that's going to be, will be available at a point in time. And to find that out, you should follow us on the things. Bob, do you have anything else?
I make and sell stuff at smallfrogart.com or .store. You can find me on Instagram at the same.
You can also look in the description of this episode to find the links to the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you're also linked out on our site too. I should put like a little banner ad at the bottom of the page or something. Need to update this.
Do you make a pop-up ad?
Yeah.
Frog stuff.
Give me an offer code exclusive to our listeners. This week we're sponsored by the same person we're sponsored by every week. My indomitable human spirit.
Hey.
Heyo. Anyways, Butch.
Bye.